Peace settled over the academy like a soft blanket. But Lily knew better than to trust quiet for too long. The bond between humans and Kreller grew stronger. Every day, young students played gentle games with Riven and Taylor using light balls and sound. Puzzles Moss even helped in the botany wing, tending to fragile alien plants with surprising care. But far beyond the academy in the dark folds of neutral space, something stirred. A signal no one else noticed pulsed from a dead moon near the Orion. Veil faint but repeating every 7 hours like a heartbeat. Lily caught it by accident while calibrating her comms unit for a class project. The pattern was too regular to be natural and too old to be Alliance codes. She showed it to Commander Voss. He ran it through the archives and his silver skin turned pale. This frequency hasn't been used in 12,000 years. He said it belongs to the first Kreller War. The one before records. Lily frowned. Then why is it active now? That's what worries me, he replied. They sent a scout drone to the moon. It returned with images of a structure half buried in rock. Not a ruin, but a vault sealed with symbols, matching those from the Kestro's V-nest, and at its center, a single Kreller egg larger than any ever recorded, still intact, still pulsing with life. The Alliance Council argued for days. Some said destroy it before it hatches. Others said study it from afar. Lily stood before them once more, her voice steady. If it's alive, it deserves a chance. The Archon glowed softly. Then you will go. This time she took Riven with her, not as protection but as kin. The shuttle landed on the dead moon, under a sky with no stars. Only dust and silence. The vault door stood 10 feet tall, covered in warnings, written in ancient glyphs. Riven touched one and shuddered, its eyes dimming with fear. This is not a nest, Lily realized. This is a prison. Someone long ago had locked something away, and now it was waking up. She found the control panel hidden beneath layers of ice using heat from her suit. She melted the seal and entered. Inside the chamber was cold blue light filled the space, and in the center floated the egg suspended in a field of energy. But something was wrong. The shell was cracked, not from hatching, but from force, and the energy field was failing. Lily checked her scanner. The life signs were weak, fading. She had to act fast. She disabled the field, carefully catching the egg in a reinforced cradle. As soon as it touched the ground, the cracks widened. A sound came from within, not a chirp or purr, but a deep hum that made the walls vibrate. Riven backed away, hissing for the first time since they left the academy. Lily held her ground. A claw broke through the shell, then another. But this Kreller was different. Its armor was silver, not black. Its eyes glowed gold, not violet, and its limbs moved with strange grace. It looked at Lily not with hunger or fear, but with recognition, as if it knew her. It spoke not in sound, but in thought. A voice in her mind, clear and "Come, you are the bridge," Lily gasped. The Ancient One explained through images in her mind long ago. The Kreller were not predators. They were guardians of balance. They kept dangerous species in check, but power corrupted some, turned to violence. Others sealed the violent ones away, including this last elder who chose sleep over war. Oh, the seal was broken not by accident, but by those who wanted war to return. The elder Kreller, named Solus, by its own thought, needed time to heal its body, weak from centuries of sleep. Lily set up a field shelter using emergency supplies and warmed the air with portable heaters. She fed Solus nutrient gel mixed with minerals from Kestro's V-soil. Riven stayed close. At first wary, but slowly he began to mimic Lily's calm posture. Days passed, then a ship appeared on the horizon. Not Alliance, not Academy. Black hull, no markings. Raiders. They had tracked the signal. Lily activated her distress beacon, but knew help would take hours. The Raiders landed, 10 of them armed with neural whips and sonic nets meant to capture live specimens. They wanted Solus. Lily stood in front of the elder Kreller, her hands empty. The raid leader laughed. "A human girl thinks she can stop us." She didn't speak. She just pressed a button on her wrist. The ground shook. Hidden charges she'd planted around the vault entrance detonated, not to kill but to block the path. Rock and ice collapsed between them and the raiders. But 2 got through. They lunged with nets. Riven leapt, snarling, tearing one net apart with his claws. Lily grabbed a sonic emitter and fired at the second raider's weapon, shorting it out. The elder Solus rose slowly, its golden eyes blazing. It let out a single tone so deep it cracked the raiders' helmets. They fell too, their knees clutching their heads before they could recover. Lily triggered the final charge. A flare that lit the sky. Bright Redalliant ships dropped from orbit. The raiders surrendered without another fight back at the academy. Solus was given a place of honor not in a lab but in the heart of the garden. A new grove built with stones from Kestros V, and the dead moon students came to learn. Not to stare, Solus taught them through Lily and Riven, how the old Kreller lived in harmony with other species, how they sang to dying stars and planted forests on barren worlds. The galaxy began to see the truth. The Kreller were never monsters, they were keepers, and Lily was their voice. One evening as she sat with Solus under the twin moons, the elder touched her forehead gently. In her mind, she saw a vision, a future where humans and Kreller traveled together not as soldiers or scientists, but as friends exploring forgotten worlds. Healing broken ones, you are more than bridge, the elder thought. You are the first note in a new song. Lily smiled and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there more vaults waited, more stories buried in dust, and she would find them, not with weapons, but with wonder. The end. In the quiet hours of the Galactic Academy's night cycle, most students had already returned to their dorms. The corridors hummed softly with the sound of cleaning drones and distant chatter from late-night study groups. But in Xenobiology Lab, 7-1 human girl remained. Her name was Lily, and she sat alone at a steel table sketching the delicate bone structure of a six-winged skittermoth from the Andromeda Rim. Her fingers moved with care over the datapad, her dark hair tied back in a loose ponytail. Her uniform slightly wrinkled from a long day of classes. Lily was not like the others. She did not brag about her scores or wear flashy tech on her wrists. She spoke little but watched much, and in a school filled with beings from 50 different worlds that made her stand out more than she realized. Outside the lab's thick glass walls, the academy orbited peacefully around the blue giant Zeta. Cygni stars glittered like scattered salt against the black, and the observation dome offered a view so vast it made even the proudest alien feel small-eyely like this time of day. When the noise faded and she could think. She had grown up on Ceres Colony, a dusty rock on the edge of human space where storms could strip paint. From metal and food rations ran thin in winter. She learned early that panic solved nothing, but calm hands and clear thoughts could fix a broken air filter or scare off a pack of razor rats. So when the lights flickered once, then twice, she didn't jump. She simply paused her sketch and listened. A low hum filled the corridor. Then a sharp crack like metal tearing. Her eyes narrowed. Then the alarms blared, red lights spun along the ceiling, and a calm voice announced containment breach level 5. All personnel evacuate immediately. Lily stood slowly, placing her stylus down. She knew what level 5 meant. Just that morning during transport shift, a new specimen had arrived, sealed in a triple-locked pod marked with black hazard stripes Kreller. Origin: do not approach under any circumstances. The Kreller were nightmare-made flesh. 8 feet tall, armored in black chitin with 6 limbs, 3 glowing violet eyes, and venom that could eat through a starship hull. They were apex predators banned from every civilized system after they wiped out 2 colonies in the Orion Fringe, and one had just escaped. Shouts echoed down the hall, followed by the frantic skitter of claws on tile. Then a scream cut short Lily. Didn't run. She walked to the lab's supply cabinet and opened it quietly, scanning the tools inside: sonic scalpel, neural inhibitor spray, cryotongs. None of it was meant for fighting a Deathstalker, but she knew better than to face it. Empty-handed, the door to the lab hissed open cold. Air rushed in, carrying the stench of acid and wet scales. In the doorway stood the Kreller. It filled the frame, its armored shoulders scraping the top of the door, its breath steaming in the cool lab air. Drool dripped from curved mandibles and sizzled. On the floor, its eyes locked onto Lily with hungry focus. Most beings would have screamed, frozen, or bolted. Lily did none of those things. She met its gaze evenly, her heart beating steady. Not slow, not fast, just ready. The creature tilted its massive head, confused. Prey did not stare back like this, like it saw a problem. Not immediately took one slow step forward. The Kreller hissed, raising its front claws, venom dripping from hooked tips. Still, she did not flinch. She remembered her grandfather's voice from years ago on Ceres. Fear is a signal, not a sentence. You feel it so you can act, not so you can stop. The Kreller lunged. Lily dropped to the floor, rolling sideways as claws tore through the air where her head had been. She came up near the wall, her hand finding the emergency atmospheric control panel. Without hesitation, she slammed her palm against the manual override. A high-pitched tone filled the room. Ultrasonic waves designed to soothe agitated specimens blasted from hidden speakers. The Kreller shrieked, clutching its head. Its sensitive hearing overwhelmed by the frequency, Lily didn't wait. She sprinted to the specimen freezer, yanked the door open, and grabbed the largest cryo container inside. It held a frozen venom gland from a lesser Kreller cousin, unstable but potent. She hurled it at the floor between them. The glass shattered on impact, the frozen tissue met warm air and instantly vaporized into a thick white mist, a paralytic agent used in controlled sedation. The Kreller staggered, choking, its limbs twitching as the mist entered its respiratory slits. Lily ran not away but toward it, ducking under its flailing tail and jamming the sonic scalpel into the soft joint beneath its armored neck. The device whined at full power, sending vibrations deep into the creature's nervous system, disrupting its motor control. The Kreller roared once, then collapsed onto the floor, its massive body twitching, its eyes dimming to a dull glow. Silence returned to the lab, broken only by Lily's heavy breathing. She stood over the fallen predator, her hands shaking not from fear but from the rush of what she had just done. Then the main door burst open. Security teams flooded in, weapons raised, scanners beeping. They stopped, dead in their tracks. Before them lay the unconscious Kreller Deathstalker, one of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures, and standing beside it, barehanded and breathing hard, was a small human girl in a rumpled Academy uniform. Commander Voss, a towering Threllian with silver skin and 4 eyes, stepped forward, his voice low with disbelief. "You subdued it." Lily wiped her hands on her pants and nodded. It was disoriented. "I used what I had. But how did you not panic? Most species faint at the sight of a Kreller, let alone fight one." She looked at him, then at the creature now being secured in heavy restraints. "I've seen worse on my homeworld." Commander Voss studied her for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. "You're coming with me?" They led her through. The Academy hall's now empty except for cleanup crews and stunned onlookers. Whispers followed her like a shadow. Human girl took down a Deathstalker. She didn't even run. Is that the one from Ceres Colony? By the time they reached the High Council chamber, Lily's name was already spreading across the Academy network. The chamber glowed with soft light. Alien dignitaries from a dozen species turned as she entered, their eyes wide with disbelief or curiosity. The head Archon, a being of pure energy floating within a containment field, spoke through a translator unit. "Human Lily, you have done what no cadet has ever done. You faced a Class 5 predator and neutralized it without killing it." Lily shifted her weight, uncomfortable with all the attention. "I just didn't want anyone else to get hurt." The Archon pulsed with light. "Your species is often called fragile, emotional, primitive, but today you showed something else. Courage, not from rage, but from clarity." They offered her a place in the elite Peacekeeper Corps, a role usually given only to warriors from ancient civilizations with centuries of combat tradition. Lily accepted not for honor, but because she believed in protecting others. As she left, the chamber, students lined the halls, not cheering but watching in quiet awe back in her dorm room. Later that night, Lily sat on her bed staring out the window at the stars. She thought of home of dust storms and ration bars and her grandfather's old stories. She never wanted to be a hero, but maybe heroes weren't the ones who shouted the loudest. Maybe they were the ones who stayed calm when everything else fell apart, and somewhere far away on another human colony. A young girl watched the Academy newsfeed, saw Lily's face, and stood a little taller, knowing that humans belonged among the stars not as guests but as guardians. The peace did not last, though solace rested in the garden and students learned the old songs of the Kreller. A new fear spread through the Alliance, not from outside but from within. Whispers grew in council halls. Some species began to question if the Kreller could ever be trusted. What if the old violence returned? What if Lily's bond was just luck, not truth? Then came the attack on Outpost 7, near the Draco Rim. A research team vanished, only their ship remained, its hull scarred with claw marks and the walls painted in blood, not red but black Kreller venom. The footage showed 3 Kreller tearing through the station, their eyes wild, their movements brutal. But Lily knew something was wrong. She studied the feed frame by frame. The Kreller moved too fast, too sharp. Their claws left marks that did not match natural Kreller anatomy, and their eyes glowed red. Not violet or gold. These were not real Kreller. They were copies, bio-engineered fakes made to look like Kreller but built for rage. Someone was framing them. She told Commander Voss, who agreed, but the Council was already in panic mode. We must contain the Kreller now before more die. The Archon said, its light flickering with doughty. You're making the same mistake again. Lily said, they're being set up. Prove it, the Archon replied, or we lock them all away. So Lily went back to Draco Rim alone this time, not as a peacekeeper but as a seeker. The outpost was cold when she arrived, bodies covered in white sheets, the air thick with the smell of burnt circuits and fear. She walked through the ruined halls, her scanner picking up traces. Not of Kreller DNA, but of synthetic tissue, lab-grown muscle, and artificial venom. These creatures were made in a laband. One clue remained: a small chip stuck in a wall near the escape pod. It held a data stamp from a company called Helix Dynamics, a human corporation based on Mars colony. Lily's stomach dropped. Humans were doing this to turn the galaxy against the Kreller. She returned to the Academy with the chip and showed it to the Council. Silence filled the chamber. Then the Archon spoke softly. This changes everything. But before they could act, Helix Dynamics struck again. This time on the Academy itself. In the middle of night, 3 fake Kreller burst from hidden pods in the cargo bay, their red eyes scanning for targets. Alarms blared, students ran. But Lily was ready. She had warned the security team. They waited in the east corridor, armed not with plasma guns but with sonic dampeners tuned to disrupt artificial nervous systems. As the fakes charged, Lily triggered the field. The creatures spasmed, their limbs locking up, their red eyes flickering out. They collapsed like broken toys. Lily walked up and ripped open one's chest plate, revealing wires and coolant fluid. Not blood or bonesy, she said to the watching crowd. This is not Kreller, this is fear dressed in armor. The real Kreller stood nearby. Riven, Tala, Moss, and Solus. Their eyes calm. They had not run. They had not fought. They had waited for Lily to show the truth. The Council acted fast. Helix Dynamics was exposed, its leaders arrested, its lab shut down. But the damage was done. Trust had cracked. Some species still looked at the Kreller with fear. Lily knew words would not fix this. Only time and truth. So she did something bold. She asked Solus to speak directly to the Alliance, not through her but on its own. At the next Grand Assembly, Solus stepped onto the central platform, its silver armor gleaming, its golden eyes steady. It did not speak in words. It sang a low, deep tone that filled the chamber, vibrating in every chest, every bone. Images came with it, not in screens but in minds. The history of the Kreller. Their care for young. Their grief for lost worlds. Their choice to sleep rather than kill. Many in the crowd wept, even those who had called for cages. After the song, the Archon rose and bowed, its light bright and warm. We were wrong. It said, the Kreller are not our enemies. They are our elders. From that day, the Alliance changed. Kreller were invited to serve on peace councils, to teach in schools, to walk freely among all worlds. And Lily no longer stood alone. She walked with Solus at her side. Riven on her left, Tala and Moss behind them. Students no longer whispered, they smiled. One day, a young human girl named Maya approached Lily holding a small drawing. It showed a Kreller and a human holding hands under a starry sky. For you, she said shyly. Lily knelt and took it. Thank you. Maya looked at Riven, who lowered his head so she could touch his armor. He made a soft purr. You're not scary, she said. Riven blinked, then tapped her hand gently with his. Lily watched them and felt hope grow like a seed in dry ground. But peace was never final. As she walked back to her quarters that night, a new message blinked on her wristband. Unknown origin encrypted. She opened it. A single image appeared, a vault, like the one on the dead moon, but larger, deeper, older. And a voice whispered through the static, they are waking. The others, Lily looked up at the stars. The work was not done. But she was ready, with her friends beside her and truth in her heart. She would face whatever came next, not as a hero, but as a human who believed in more than fear. And in that belief, the galaxy found its future. Months had passed since Lily brought the young Kreller to the Academy. and the once feared predators now moved through the gardens like quiet shadows, their claws clicking softly on stone paths, their violet eyes no longer sharp with hunger but calm with trust. They followed Lily everywhere, not as guards or pets, but as companions. She named them Riven, Tayla, and Moss, the last for the greenish tint on its armor that reminded her of moss on old rocks. Other students slowly stopped flinching. When the Kreller passed, some even left small gifts, fruit from hydroponic farms or woven bands made of light fiber, the kind used in friendship rituals across a dozen worlds. Lily taught the Kreller simple signs using hand movements and tones. They learned faster than anyone expected, and soon they could answer yes or no, show hunger or fear or joy. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy-wone evening. As Lily walked with Riven through the observation dome, a priority alert flashed on her. Wristband, red border, urgent recalls. He ran to the command center where Commander Voss stood over a star map. His face grim. "It's happening again," he said. On the screen, a live feed showed a mining colony on Kestros V. Burning black smoke rose from its domes, and in the distance something huge moved through the flames. Kreller. But not just one, a whole pack, and they were not wearing collars. This was not trafficking. This was war. The mining colony had been studying ancient ruins buried deep beneath its surface, ruins that predated even the oldest Alliance records. What they found was a chamber, a nest sealed for 10,000 years, and they opened it now. The wild Kreller were awake and angry. The Alliance Council voted fast, send a strike team, eliminate the threat. Lily stood in the chamber as the decision was made, her voice quiet but firm. "You can't kill them. They're not attacking without reason. They're defending their home." The Archon pulsed dimly. "The colony is human, Lily. They have families, children, and the Kreller have a history," she replied, one we ignored after a long silence. The Archon changed its light to soft blue, then "Speak to them." So Lily went, not with weapons, but with Riven, Tayla, and Moss. The shuttle landed far from the burning colony, the air thick with ash and the smell of scorched metal. Through her scope, she saw the wild Kreller circling the ruins. Their movements protective, not aggressive. They herded survivors into a safe zone away from collapsing tunnels. They were not killing. They were guarding. Lily stepped out of the shuttle alone, her hands open. The wild Kreller turned as one, their eyes locking onto her. Riven stepped forward from behind her and made a low trill, the sign for peace. The largest of the wild Kreller, a scarred elder with white streaks on its armor, tilted its head, then answered with the same sound Lily's breath caught. They understood each other. She walked slowly toward the ruins, the wild Kreller parting to let her pass. Inside the chamber, the walls glowed with strange glyphs pulsing faintly blue. The air hummed with energy. At the center lay a massive egg, cracked open, empty. The elder Kreller nudged it gently with its claw, then looked at Lily and made a sound like grief. They had lost their last young one. The miners had taken it, thinking it was just a fossil. Lily knew then what she had to do. She contacted the colony leader, a tired man named Ellis, his face streaked with soot. "Where's the eggshell?" she asked. He hesitated, then nodded to a storage crate in the med bay. She opened it. Inside, the broken pieces of the egg rested beside a small device the miners had used to scan it, but something moved. A tiny claw poked through a crack in one shard. The hatchling was still alive. Lily carefully lifted the pieces and carried them back to the ruins. The wild Kreller watched her every step. She placed the fragments near the nest and stepped back. The elder Kreller approached slowly, then began to hum a deep, resonant tone. The others joined in, the sound vibrating through the stone. The shards trembled, then shifted. A small head emerged, wet and blinking its eyes the color of dawn. The wild Kreller bowed their heads. Lily felt tears on her cheeks, but did not wipe them away. She turned to Ellis, who had followed at a distance. "You took their future," she said. "Now give it back." He nodded, shame in his eyes. "We didn't know. Now you do." The Alliance called off the strike team. Instead, they sent scientists not to dig, but to learn. And Lily stayed with the Kreller for weeks, helping the hatchling grow, teaching it the signs she had made with Riven. The wild pack watched her not as an enemy, but as a bridge. When it was time to leave, the elder Kreller touched her shoulder with the tip of its claw, then placed a small carved stone in her hand, a symbol of kinship. Back at the academy, the story spread fast. Humans had not conquered or destroyed. They had listened, and in doing so, They had turned enemies into allies. The council granted the Kreller full protection status, their nest declared sacred ground. No human or alien would disturb it again. Lily returned to her quiet routines. But now she was never truly alone. Riven, Taylor, and Moss walked with her, and sometimes in the garden. The young hatchling from Kestro's V appeared on the Academy feed, its tiny claws tapping the screen as if saying hello. Students no longer whispered about her as the girl who fought a predator. They called her the one who spoke to monsters. But Lily knew the truth. There were no monsters, only beings who had not yet been understood. One evening, as she sat sketching under the stars, Riven rested its head on her lap and let out a soft purr. She smiled and kept drawing. Not bones or weapons this time, but a circle, humans, and Kreller side by side beneath the same sky, and in that simple shape she saw the future, not of war but of wonder. Weeks passed since the incident in Xenobiology Lab 7, and Lily's life changed in ways she never expected. She no longer walked the halls unnoticed. Now students turned to watch her pass. Some bowed slightly. Others whispered behind their hands, but most just stared with wide eyes as if she carried lightning in her pockets. She still wore the same plain academy uniform, still kept her hair tied back, still ate alone in the mess hall, but now silence followed her like a shadow. The Peacekeeper course had given her a new badge, a silver disc etched with the symbol of unity. It hung on her belt next to her datapad. She did not wear it with pride, only with quiet acceptance. Her first real assignment came sooner than she thought. A distress call. From Outpost Theta 9 on the edge of neutral space, the signal was broken, full of static. But one word came through. Clear, Krellar. Commander Voss called her into his office. His silver skin dimmed with worry. They think it's another escapee. But the pod logs show no transport near Theta 9 in the last cycle. Then how did it get there, Lily asked. That's what we need to find out, he said. You'll go with a small team, 2 Threllians, 1 Vrexian, and a drone scout. Your job is to assess, not engage unless necessary. Lily nodded. She packed light, a medkit, a sonic pulse emitter, a field rations pack, and her old sketchbook. The shuttle ride was quiet. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport. She sketched the curve of a nebula while the others checked weapons. The Vrexian named Kale kept glancing at her. Finally he spoke. Humans are not built for combat. Why did they send you? Lily didn't look up. I don't fight to win. I fight to stop. Kale frowned but said nothing. They landed on Theta 9 as the twin suns dipped below the rust-colored horizon. The outpost was dark. No lights. No movement. Only the wind howling through broken comms towers. The team moved in formation. Lily at the rear, scanning the ground for tracks. Then she saw it, not footprints but drag marks leading toward the main dome, and beside them a smear of black ichor. The same venom the Kreller used. But something was wrong. The trail was too neat. Too straight. Predators didn't move like this unless they were being leader-controlled. She signaled the team to stop, pointing to a thin wire half buried in the dust, almost invisible. It ran from the drag marks to a small device stuck to the outpost wall. A remote neural leash used to command bioweapons. Someone had brought the Kreller here on purpose. Before she could warn them, the ground shook. The main dome burst open, and not 1 but 3 Kreller charged out, their eyes blazing violet, their claws raised. The Threllians fired plasma bolts. The Vrexian unleashed sonic grenades, but the creatures moved faster than they should, their movements too precise, too coordinated. Lily ducked behind a supply crate, her mind racing. If they were controlled, then the leash had a source. She spotted it, a small hover drone, circling above the fight, sending pulses to the Kreller collars. She pulled out her sonic pulse emitter, aimed not at the creatures but at the drone. She fired. The device shrieked, then exploded in a shower of sparks. The Kreller froze mid-stride, their eyes flickering, confused. For a moment they stood still like statues. Then one turned and hissed at the others, not in attack but in warning. They were not mindless. They were just trapped. Lily stepped forward. Slowly. Hands open, the nearest Kreller snarled, but did not charge. She remembered the young one back at the academy, how it had tapped her hand with its claw. These were not monsters. They were weapons. Someone had stolen. The other team members held their fire, watching. Her Lily spoke softly. Not in Words, but in tone, calm, steady. The lead Kreller tilted its head, then let out a low rumble, almost like a sigh. It turned and walked away. The others followed, disappearing into the red dune scale. Lowered his weapon. Stunned, they just left. They were never. The enemy, Lily said. The real enemy is the one who put collars on them, back at the academy. The council was furious. Someone inside the Alliance was trafficking Kreller, using them as living weapons, and Lily had proof. The neural leash she recovered was stamped with a serial number traced to a black market dealer on the fringe. World of Nyx Prime Commander Voss called her in again. This time his eyes held something new. Respect, you see what others miss. He said, you don't just look, you understand. Just ask why, she replied. Then ask it on Nyx Prime. He said, go undercover, find the source, stop the trade before more predators are unleashed. She left that night alone, no team, no backup. Just a false identity and a small credit chip. Nyx Prime was a world of shadows and smoke markets built inside hollowed-out asteroids where laws were bought and sold like spices. Lily wore a long coat. Her hair dyed silver, her peacekeeper badge hidden beneath her shirt. She found the dealer in a den beneath a rusted freighter. His name was Jarek, a slimy Kenthar with too many teeth and eyes that never blinked. He sold bioweapons to the highest bidder. And tonight he was expecting a buyer for a new batch of Kreller pups. Lily posed as a collector from the Outer Rim, interested in rare specimens. Jarek grinned. Show me your credits first. She tapped her chip on his scanner. It showed enough to buy a small moon. He led her down a dark corridor to a sealed chamber inside 3 juvenile Kreller huddled together. Their collars blinking red with control signals. They were no bigger than dogs, their eyes wide with fear. Not Lily's chest tightened. How much for all 3, she asked. Jarek laughed. They're not pets, little human, they're tools. I know, she said, and tools can be broken. Before he could react, she jammed her pulse emitter into his neck. He dropped like a stone. She moved fast, disabling the collars with a code she'd memorized from the leash back on Theta 9. The young Kreller blinked as the red lights died and crept forward, sniffing her hand. She knelt and touched its head gently. You're free now. Alarms blared through the den. She grabbed the pups and ran. Blaster fire lit the corridors behind her. She ducked into a maintenance shaft, climbing through narrow tunnels until she reached the surface. Her shuttle waited hidden behind a dune. She loaded the Kreller inside and lifted off just as enforcers swarmed the den in orbit. She sent a coded message to Commander Voss: location secure, source neutralized, specimens rescued. His reply came quickly: return home. But as her ship turned toward the stars, she looked at the young Kreller curled together in the back. One of them looked up and made a soft clicking sound, almost like a purr. She smiled. We're not monsters. They were just lost and maybe like her. They only needed someone to see them clearly back at the academy. The council debated what to do with the pups. Some wanted them destroyed. Others studied them as threats. Lily stood before them. Again, not as a cadet, but as a voice. They are not weapons. She said they are children taken from their nest, taught to fear and obey. If we destroy them, we become the monsters. After a long silence, the Archon glowed softly, then spoke. Let them stay under your Cariso. Lily became more than a peacekeeper. She became a bridge. In the quiet hours, she sat with the young Kreller, teaching them trust through gentle sounds and shared food. They learned her rhythm. She learned theirs. Students watched from a distance, at first afraid, but slowly curiosity replaced fear. One day, a small Vrexian child left a toy near the enclosure. One of the Kreller nudged it with its snout, then pushed it back with a soft chirp. Lily saw it and knew change did not come with fire or force. It came with a single moment of kindness, and in that moment the galaxy grew a little wider, a little Kindera, little more human.